Hello, everyone. It's time for another show. Jill Duffy is back. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm excited. This is going to be interesting. All right, here we go. I keep messing this up every day. I can't count backwards on my fingers.
Okay, Google. How can I support Daily Tech News Show?
You can show your support for Daily Tech News Show by donating to their Patreon. Visit patreon.com/acetech. That's patreon.com/ACEDTECT.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, November 20th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Jill Duffy, senior analyst for PCMag.com, is back on the show. How's it going, Jill?
Going.
Going good. Going good.
Going.
Yeah, just going. All right, that's fine. We've got some trackers to talk about though, and I'm excited. We're going to talk about the actual wearables people use and wear.
Like this one.
Yeah. All right, let's start off with some headlines. Engadget reports Corning has created Gorilla Glass 4. The company examined hundreds of broken devices and smashed a lot of phones to find out that damage from sharp contact accounted for 70% of field failures. Gorilla Glass 4 is designed to stay intact 80% of the time when dropped from a meter above a rough surface. Corning said it is already sending test samples to its customers, so we might see phones with this in it next year. Have you ever been one of the people to walk around with the smashed glass phone that you still use, Jill?
I'm embarrassed to say that I did. For about a month, I had a smashed phone, and I took it to Koreatown, and they fixed me up for like $100, so I was happy about that. It wasn't as painful to fix as I thought it was going to be.
Tip for New Yorkers: fix your phone in Koreatown. I think it's pretty common. I see them. The first time I ever saw somebody with one, I was like, "Whoa, I can't believe that's crazy." But now it's just sort of like, I don't know, 1 out of every 3 people I know has had one at one time.
You know what I learned though was the moment the phone cracked, it was like more responsive to my touch, and I could control the phone with a much lighter touch rather than like banging on it. So I
wonder if that's the air gap.
Too bad.
Yeah, the air gap goes away. And then, yeah, interesting. TechCrunch reports Dropbox has updated its Carousel app for iOS and Android. Carousel combines photos from your device with photos that you store in Dropbox, making it easier to look at them. Dropbox has an easy interface for viewing all of them. It's a carousel, so you swipe through all the photos to view them. Now there's a messaging feature as well. Lets you instantly send photos and videos to friends, even large photos, without having to open up your Messenger app, etc. The new app has a cleaner interface, launches on iPad today, Android tablets soon, and there's a web version now as well. I don't know that. You know what? I actually store photos in Dropbox. I've never installed Carousel, and I think that's one of the problems here is Dropbox is really trying to make people jump from using it as a backup place to using it as a place to view it. I don't know, Jill. Is that compelling to you?
Yeah, I see what you're saying is that, we all got used to using Dropbox as kind of like an invisible service.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's more valuable to people if they can get users to actually actively use it more. So, but I'm with you. I already got used to using Dropbox in the way that I like it. So why do I need to do more with it?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's someone out there who disagrees with me, but I don't need another photo viewer. I don't. Yeah. It's not like the olden days of carousel slideshows, which I think this is kind of trying to be in a way. Recode passes along details from Sandvine's latest report on North American broadband usage during prime time. If you've been wandering around saying, Netflix takes up 1/3 of the download bandwidth in prime time in the U.S., you can keep saying that because it's still true. YouTube stays at number 2 with 14.04%, and Amazon has risen above the 2% level, 2.58%. Now, keep in mind, this is bandwidth usage. It's not the number of streams, but it's usually a fair approximation of the popularity of services. And that's just download. BitTorrent still takes up 25.49% of the upload. So many Linux ISOs just making their way into the world. Ars Technica reports Mozilla has not renewed Google as the default search engine for the Firefox browser worldwide. Mozilla has struck regional deals instead. So, for instance, Baidu becomes default in China, Yandex in Russia, and Yahoo powered by Bing in the United States. Mozilla told Marketing Land's Danny Sullivan that Google remains the default in Europe, although they sort of left that out of their blog post about this announcement, and it will continue to exist as an alternate option, as Yahoo has been in Firefox. This is a bigger deal for Mozilla, I think, than it is for users. As a user, I might be mildly annoyed if I'm going to have to change my default back to Google if I'm really into it. Maybe I'll try Yahoo for a while, but it doesn't really change my life. It could change things considerably in that they might not be able to get that Google money back if this doesn't work out. GigaOM reports that the Washington Post has launched a version of its news app exclusively for Amazon Fire owners. Fire tablet users will get the app free for 6 months, and then an additional 6 months will only cost you $1. The new app will come to other devices next year, but then it's going to cost you $4 a month. It includes Pinch View, which allows users to swipe through an edition as if they were flipping through pages, and updates twice a day, once at 5 a.m. Eastern, once at 5 p.m. Eastern. And they put breaking news and other updates in between as stuff happens. But I like the morning paper, afternoon paper kind of feel about this. Does this change your perception of reading a newspaper at all, Jill?
This is so interesting to me. I'm really fascinated to see where news reporting is going and where news organizations are going as the switch from print to digital is spreading not just in the U.S. but really all over the world. I don't think this is going to be the be all end all, absolutely, but I like to see people experiment with it because we've got to figure out something different that gives newspapers some more cachet above bloggers who don't necessarily have the same training and ethical backgrounds that newsrooms do and reporters do. So I would like to see more differentiation. I wonder if that's part of what is going on here, is by creating a more, a standardized edition that has these AM, PM editions, that if that's giving them some more cachet in the marketplace.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about the bloggers. There are plenty of bloggers that have very good journalistic ethics. They are journalists, etc. But there's a whole range out there that didn't used to exist, right? Because and
I think we need to have some sort of differentiation, because I see people throwing these words around without differentiating them, and I think it is important to, even a site like the New York Times has a blog section, but we have to be very clear about differentiating what is a report, what is in-depth reporting, what is an opinion blog, what is an op-ed for a newspaper, because those are really different things, and you edit them differently and you fact-check them differently. And I wonder if these kinds of products will help us make that differentiation as readers.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a scramble right now to come up with the way that people prefer to consume their news, because I am a believer that the desire for good hard news reporting did not go away. We just went from 5 or 6 competitors in an area to millions of competitors in an area practically overnight, and people just really haven't settled on the best way to consume their news. I'm not saying this is it, but like you say, I'm with you. I like the idea of like, well, let's try this. Now, there's also the aspect that Jeff Bezos owns both the Washington Post and Amazon, so there's a little friendly partnership going on here, which is why Kindle is getting it for free. I don't know how that impacts it, though, but it'll be interesting to see if this helps boost the Washington Post for sure.
Yeah.
Reuters reports Alibaba founder Jack Ma said the Chinese company will set up an international version of its Taobao e-commerce site in multiple languages, including Chinese, but also English. Alibaba has a wholesale international site called AliExpress that operates internationally, but not one for consumers to sell to each other. So an eBay-like competitor coming to the rest of the world. Alibaba's Taobao is very popular in China. The Verge reports Uber hired Harriet Pearson, former privacy chief at IBM, to conduct a review of Uber's privacy practices and make recommendations. In addition, U.S. Senator Al Franken posted a public letter to Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, taking him to task for the company's attitude toward privacy and asking 8 questions, which the senator expects responses to by December 15th.
Can't be very hard-pressing questions if he's got 2.5 weeks to answer them, right? Almost a month, really.
Yeah, 3 weeks for sure, right? Yeah, I mean, I that's the wheels of Congress moving more than anything, I suppose. Al Franken has become the senator who goes after bad acting on the internet. these days. So it's no surprise to see him do this. But you're right. These aren't urgent. I don't know how urgent the situation really is, though, honestly. I mean, you want to give them time.
What is going on with Uber lately?
Yeah. There's definitely an attitude being revealed there, has been my theory.
Yeah.
Bloomberg Businessweek reports a corporate advocacy group called the Ad Hoc Telecommunications Users Committee has visited the U.S. FCC commissioners 3 times this year. Representatives of the group include, and these are the people who showed up for the meetings, they had to make this public, Nicholas Lewis of UPS, Lawrence Chattu of Bank of America, Carl Holzhauser of Visa, and James Carroll from Ford Motor. FCC filings showed the topic of the meetings was protecting and promoting the open internet and terminating access monopolies. In a separate comment filed with the FCC as part of the open internet comment proceedings, this same group urged the FCC to classify broadband under Title II. Ford and Visa spokespeople told Bloomberg their representatives did not advocate for Title II, but it sounds like the larger organization at least has in the past. I found this intriguing that large corporations, very quietly, really not wanting people to notice, have been sitting down with the FCC saying, look, we don't want the telecommunications companies to strangle us because we're operating on the internet. We have catalogs. We have services.
A lot of high-powered people there, a lot of money behind that.
Yeah. So you may end up getting net neutrality, folks, thanks to big business and lobbyists, which would be an odd twist to the end of this story. The Verge reports Google has a new system called Contributor that lets users pay partner sites $1 to $3 a month in order to remove Google AdSense ads from sites. Mashable, The Onion, Science Daily, Imager, WikiHow, and Urban Dictionary have all been announced as partners in the new program. Kind of an odd thing for an ad sales company, which Google essentially is, to take inventory away, so I assume they must be getting a cut, although they didn't make a detail about that.
I am so happy to see that. I think that's one area where people have really asked Google for a long time, you know, give us a way to pay and we'll pay for what we actually want. Don't just make us see ads. Don't just read our email by default. So I'm happy to see this. I think it's an experimentation, though.
Yeah, definitely. It's them trying this out to see, and you can sort of tell by the kinds of sites who are willing to do this. Imager, Urban Dictionary, The Onion. These are sites willing to take a flyer on things as well. So it's cool. I'm glad somebody's trying it.
Yeah.
These are some stories from our subreddit, News From You, at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. If you haven't checked it out, by all means, head on over and just look at all the stories that are being submitted by other people who listen to the show like you. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. starfuryzeta is one of them. He sent us the GigaOhm report that the U.S. FTC and the state of Florida announced court complaints against dozens of individuals and companies that allegedly run those PC cleaner scams. Those are the scams that trick users into installing malware and then call them up on the phone and try to charge them for removal of the malware that they installed by installing some other software that then leads to further scams. The FTC obtained an injunction on their operations and an order for asset seizures, though they didn't file any criminal charges. So, you know, these folks who run these could end up just going and starting a new business somewhere else. Captain Kipper pointed out the TechCrunch story that free open source anti-surveillance tool called Detect has been released. It's DETEKT. Berlin-based security researcher Claudio Guarnieri is behind it. You can find it at resistsurveillance.org. The tool scans Windows machines for surveillance spyware that is used to target and monitor human rights defenders and journalists around the world. Now, the tool only tells you if it found surveillance software. It doesn't guarantee that none exists. It only can find so much of it. The software was developed in partnership with the EFF, Digital Gesellschaft, Privacy International, and Amnesty International. This is, I got nothing but good things to say about this being out there in open source. Well done. Habichuelacondulce passed along the consumerist report about a graphic designer in Tennessee who was moving an hour away. He called his cable company and was told he could move his business class broadband service to his new location. Only an hour away, you're no problem. However, the installer never showed up. So he called his cable company again and was told his new address was not served by the company, and in fact, he owed $2,789 in early termination fees. You want to guess cable company? Anyone? Veronica? Anyone? A local news station got involved, and you guessed it, Comcast confirmed to the news station that the early termination fee was charged, but then Comcast said there were extenuating circumstances in the case and the fee would be waived. Good job, WSMV Nashville. Next up, a monkey goes bananas for basketball. And that's a look at the headlines. All right, Jill, Duffy has a story in Prevention Magazine right now called 20 Trackers that can tell you more about yourself than you ever thought possible. We're always talking about Apple Watches and Android and Moto 360 and this and that, and I'm the one leading the way of like, I'm not sure why I want to wear one of these, but there are wearables that people are in fact wearing and using and getting things out of it, and that's the fitness stuff. Jill, what did you find?
Yeah, so I mean, we've known this for a long time. There's been fitness trackers like the Fitbits. That's the brand that most people know. And in the last 3 years, this category has really taken off. So I think it kind of has its roots in the sports category. You know, the Garmin watches, they track your runs, your pace, your cadence, and all this. But these were simpler pedometers that help normal everyday people get a handle on how much activity they get just moving around. So the one that I'm wearing now is the Basis Peak. This is one of the brand new ones, $199. It's so cool. It automatically tracks like what you're doing, and it has a heart rate monitor built into the back, an optical heart rate monitor. And what I see as being valuable about these things is, one, they really do help people who are not moving around a lot to just kind of keep an eye on what they're doing, how much they're moving, how little they're moving, and that information alone really wakes you up to your own health and level of physical fitness. But in the longer term, I think this move to being comfortable with self-quantification is going to start to move into the medical sphere. So that's where I see it as becoming important, right? Like, so imagine you can collect all this data about yourself, your resting heart rate, maybe your heart rate variability, your body temperature. And then you go to your doctor, right? So some people complain that they have what they call white coat hypertension. A doctor's in a room and their blood pressure goes up. Well, imagine now you have all this data that you've collected every day at home to compare that to. So for one, it gives you a baseline, and two, it gives you early signs of other problems.
Yeah, so we could essentially be wearing modified versions of the kinds of monitors that doctors use, even just at a checkup, all the time, collecting data. That's kind of the idea behind HealthKit. Something like Basis Peak is cool because it does that, right? It constantly charges. Now, it's a little expensive at $200 because the Fitbit Charge HR is only $150, and it also, brand new, other Fitbits don't do this, does the constant heart rate charge. I didn't know if there was any other differences between the Basis Peak and this. The Fitbit's got more of a band look to it, whereas the Basis Peak looks like a normal watch, which I kind of like that better.
Yeah, and what I like about the Peak is it actually it figures out automatically based on motion and your skin temperature, your heart rate, what activity you're doing. So instead of saying like go into run mode, go into bicycle mode, when it sees my hands are like this and my heart rate goes up, it's like, oh, you're bicycling. Let me start recording that you're bicycling. Let me estimate the calorie burn that you're doing because you're bicycling. And I don't think the Charge HR is doing quite that level of automation yet. And the Charge HR is not quite out yet. It's on, I believe it's on pre-order still. It's on
pre-order, yeah.
Yeah,
you're right about
and
that.
The Basis just became available in the U.S. today. I've had one for about 3 weeks, so I've had a good long time to get comfortable with this one.
And they just announced you can share data with third-party apps, not just the Basis Peak app, like we've used Runkeeper, which I do. You can do that. Basis Peak just announced it today. They're going to have notifications coming with a firmware update in December, so it will work more like some of the watches you've been hearing about, but have this fitness aspect. It sort of depends on how you're positioning it, right? Because I know that a lot of the smartwatches also have heart rate monitors, but I guess the difference is this one's constant and it's meant for that. And so the apps are tooled to collecting that sort of data.
Yes, I've got to say, I tried out the Microsoft Fitness Band too. My review of that just went up last week. When you take a company like Microsoft that does certain things very well and then they try to make a fitness product, it was really not surprising that it got a lot of the software done well, and then the wearability of it was terrible. It was super uncomfortable to wear. The sizing was awkward because Microsoft is not a company that makes sports and fitness devices. Basis, this is at least their second generation device. They've learned a lot from the first one. It's the only thing that they make. They were bought by Intel last year, or earlier this year, but it's the one thing that they make, so they specialize in this. If you look at some of the smartwatches, you know, they're trying to be something else first and then just offer a little bit of fitness stuff. And so there's this spectrum between the hardcore runner watches and the sports devices all the way through to the smartwatch side of things. And I think the Basis Peak and some of the new Fitbits that are coming out are kind of in that middle ground, and I think they're kind of doing the best job of it right now.
Now, when you talk about using these and collecting the data and maybe sharing it with your medical professional, it's also coming from the other side. The health patch is another one that you mentioned in this article, where you can't buy it as a consumer. It's doctor administered, but it can do, well, does it do EKG or EEG? Respiratory rate, heart rate, steps taken, stress levels. It's meant to monitor a patient, whether they're in the hospital or at home.
Right. So this is super cool. It's an adhesive bandage. You put it on your chest, and it has a tiny tracker in it that I believe the battery life is about 3 days. So instead of you staying in the hospital 3 days being monitored by your doctor says, you know what, go home. I can monitor you from afar. I can know what your body temperature's doing, what your heart rate's doing. I can tell if you've fallen down, like if you're an elderly patient or maybe you're having some physical therapy issues. So the doctor says, you don't really need to be in the hospital anymore. We'll send you home. We'll call you if there's a problem. We'll call you if we see something change and you need to come back in. But think about how this can impact healthcare cost, right? Like if suddenly you don't have to stay in the hospital because the doctor's like, you're fine, I can monitor these 5 or 6 important things, and if there's a problem, then you come back in.
Now, certain things like an MRI, you're always going to have to go into for the foreseeable future till they miniaturize that. Yeah. But this is the kind of thing that you might have had to go in for an expensive visit and take tests where you can just have the data collected constantly and you've almost been pre-tested. It's like, you know, I just thought of this. It's like bulk data collection for yourself, right? You're not expecting to have had a problem, but if you did have a problem and a complaint, they can then go back and look at your data and maybe see where it changed, which is a good thing in this situation.
Yeah, I've been interviewing a lot of doctors to kind of get the medical opinion about this. And medical professionals tend to be very wary. They want to make sure that everything's done well, that we have a lot of precaution about this. They want to have lots of double-blind studies, you know, where the tech industry is more like, let's come in and just try things and disrupt
let's beta test it. Yeah. So, doctors not so much with the beta testing, I guess. Yeah, it makes sense.
Here's what one doctor told me. He's a private practice doctor in San Francisco. He works a lot with patients who have problems that they can't figure out. So maybe they think they have a gluten allergy, or maybe they think they have a heart arrhythmia. What this guy does is he says, get the trackers that you want, or he suggests them, collect your data. Then they come in and they meet with either the doctor or some other coach in their life. And as they go through the data, the patient says, okay, when this happened, I remember I was driving and I was really stressed out. And when my heart rate did this, so what happens is that data starts to help you tell a story and piece together things that are going on in your life that you might not even remember if you just go to visit the doctor and the doctor's like, anything changed? No. You taking any new medications? No. Like, this is a much more rich story for a doctor to start to unpack and discover, well, what could be these other causes? What else are you doing in your life? What are these triggers that are causing you problems, whether it's the food that you eat or the activities that you do or whatever else?
I think what's really interesting about this is we see so many stories, or at least I see so many stories in the tech press particularly, about jewelry. Wearables mean jewelry. And they also mean Fitbits and stuff, but it's always kind of a secondary, like, yeah, it used to be Fitbits, but now it's elegant watches. And I'm not saying that that's not going to be a path, but this seems like a much more compelling reason for wearables to take off. And we as consumers shouldn't want or not want wearables to take off. What we should want is things that'll be useful to us. And I can't think of anything more useful than something that's going to help lower my health insurance costs and potentially make me healthier, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The thing about jewelry is such baloney, I have to say. Like, I've seen precisely one device that I would consider looking like actual jewelry, and it's called June. It's not featured in this last article that I wrote. I did write a review of it on PC Mag. It is a wristband that you wear that looks like a little stone, kind of, and it measures the UV rays that you're getting from the sun. So there's another product that's similar to this called SunFriend, and it is in the prevention article. What both of these do is they monitor how much sun exposure you're getting, and they sort of tell you, okay, you've gotten enough vitamin D for the day. Now you need to put on sunscreen because you're at risk for getting cancer. And it takes into consideration the fairness of your skin, but also like how cloudy is it out today.
Yeah.
So that's, I have to tell you, that's the one thing I've ever seen that looks like jewelry. I believe it was designed by a French company. Everything else really just looks very masculine, chunky, sporty, gaudy, often too big for small, petite people. So the whole jewelry thing is just garbage.
Not yet, yeah. I have to say, the sun prevention thing with me living in LA would just go off immediately when I walked out the door. So I'm not sure if I just assume that I need the sunscreen.
4 seconds of sunlight, yeah.
Well, thank you, Jill. Folks, we'll have a link in the show notes to prevention.com, but take a look at her article there. And, of course, she's always writing for PCMag.com. Let's take a look at the calendar. Nintendo 2DS Crystal Red and Crystal Blue designs launch tomorrow, November 21st. If you're into the retro, you're going to want to see these. Also, tomorrow, Uber Spotify integration launches in 10 cities. And on this day, Microsoft released version 1.0 of Windows, finally, after more than a year delay. You know, I read PC Computing Magazine, and they said it was inferior to competitors like DeskView, so I don't think it'll really catch on. That was a 1983, I think, if I have the name right. Our pick of the day comes from Greg Harris. He wants us to check out bomgar.com, BOMGAR.com. He says it's the best enterprise remote desktop support for nearly every platform. Simple, intuitive, comprehensive, full-featured, available for hosted or managed, can be virtual or appliance-based. I haven't tried it out, Greg, and I don't know if Greg works for Bomgar, but it did get some good reviews. I did go and check it out, and there are a lot of satisfied customers out there. So if you're looking for enterprise management, might be worth at least putting in your list of things to compare, BOMGAR.com. You can send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Just one email today from Jeremy, who wrote in to tell us about the Amazon Fire TV stick. He played around with it last night. He was one of the people who ordered it quickly enough that he actually got it yesterday. The short, it's good. It has all the things it should. Hulu, Netflix, Pandora, and of course Amazon Instant Streaming. The fact I can watch my rented Amazon streaming videos is the reason I bought it. I ordered early and I was already a Prime member, so I got it for $20 off. The remote is kind of nice, but once the iOS app comes out, I won't be so worried about losing another remote. The one thing that stuck out to me the most, the videos I test start playing instantly. I tried a few videos available through Amazon Prime. As soon as I clicked play, they played. No buffering at all, and the picture was very clear. And it's interesting he mentions Amazon, so they may be doing some pre-caching with their own content there. Oddly, the feature that my wife and I spent the most time with during our test was scrolling through all of the pictures that had been uploaded by my iPhone and Amazon's recently released Cloud Drive app that backs up my iPhone photos. It was fun going through all the old photos for our 2-year-old twins. The app and game catalog looks intriguing, but I haven't played around enough to review those. Just thought you might like a little input. Well, thanks, boss. He's a backer on Patreon. Thank you, Jeremy, for that. I can't wait for mine to come on December 11th when it finally makes its way. If you don't know about the Fire TV stick, it's a dongle-like stick, sticks in an HDMI port just like a Google Chromecast, but the difference is it actually has apps on it, so it's a little more like the Roku stick in that way, and it has a remote that you can use to control it. So it's essentially the Fire TV box shrunk down into a dongle form, and they had a deal, a screaming deal on it for $19 for Amazon Prime members for a while. Jill, I'm curious, do you use any of these streaming boxes to watch video, watch TV?
I have a smart TV, and then I have an Apple TV, and I just found out last night that my partner did in fact order an Amazon Fire TV stick. I didn't even know, but he was like, "Oh, did I get any packages today?" I was like, "No, what are you waiting for?" He's Amazon Fire TV stick. I was like, "Why do we need that?" He said, "It's $19. We got to check it out." So
it was funny. I was having dinner last night with some friends, and one of them was like, "Oh yeah, I ordered an Amazon Fire TV stick." Now, he wasn't the kind of person I wouldn't have guessed, but it seems like a very popular choice for people, maybe because of the price, is my guess.
Yeah, I think it's the price, really. Yeah,
because the Chromecast was very popular for that same reason, and it's more expensive than the Fire TV stick, or at least it was with that $19 deal for sure. Well, thank you, Jill Duffy. Twitter.com/Jill E. Duffy, because electronic, right? I'm saying
I
that
like
so
to say
people remember.
excelente, but you know.
Or Excelente, even better. Follow her right now, Jill E. Duffy. And of course, look for her articles on PC Mag. I asked Jill last time she was on to let me know when she had an article coming out, and she did. And I'm very happy you did, Jill. Thanks for doing that.
Absolutely.
And do you have anything on the horizon to let people know about? Anything else to plug?
Oh, I do. I'm going to have a big piece next month about, well, actually, it'll be in January, on the idea of productivity and organization. So New Year's, everybody wants to make big changes to their life. I have a Monday column called Get Organized, How to Clean Up Your Messy Digital Life. So this is going to be like a big honking article of like, let's start from scratch. Let's do a quick overhaul on ourselves. What can we do better using the digital tools and technology we have? So that'll be in January.
Great. Check that out. In fact, I need to check that out probably too. I have a decent system, but it can always be improved. Thanks to our 4,577 supporters on Patreon and the innumerable supporters in other ways out there that make the show possible. We operate on the value for value model, and I'm glad so many people find value in it. dailytechnewsshow.com/donate if you'd like more information on how to support. I've been adding more ways in there. I put the t-shirt links, the book links up there. So go to dailytechnewsshow.com/donate for all that stuff. I should probably rename the page because it's not really all about donating, maybe support or something like that. But I want to plug Len Peralta because it's almost the 1-year anniversary of Daily Tech News Show, and Len, who is our resident art prov artist, is doing something special to mark the occasion. He's drawing a poster called In This Together, and you have a chance to be drawn into the print. There are 50 slots left, actually fewer than 50 slots left. If you want to get drawn into the piece of DTNS history, says Len, go to Len's Patreon page, patreon.com/Len. All you got to do is pledge $2.50 or more. It's not much, and then Len will draw you into the print, and you'll also get a copy of the print as well. Once again, the URL, patreon.com/Len. Don't forget, you have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Phone number 512-59-DAILY. And the show's live at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday at alphageekradio.com. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Hooray! Good stuff.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Hope you had a good time, Jill.
I did, absolutely.
Thanks for
All
being
right.
on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I will let you guys chit-chat with everybody in the chat room and
Sounds good.
say my goodbyes. All right.
Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. That was good stuff.
Good stuff.
I'm always such a fan of when somebody goes out and does a huge amount of reporting on a topic and then tells us about it.
Yeah. No, Jill knows her stuff too. It's always good.
Yep.
You can tell.
So great.
She lives it.
Mm-hmm. I, of course, had such a different point of view on the Washington Post app.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's a room in this world for many points of view.
valid points of view, and I agree that it is absolutely correct and awesome that they should just be trying. But
You just don't think they'll succeed, it sounds like.
Whenever I hear 5 a.m. edition and 5 p.m. edition, my mind a little bit because I'm like, you can't do that anymore. Like, you might as well have just committed to updating constantly.
I don't know. I generally agree with you in that principle. Not made the caveat of adding breaking news and updates throughout the day. I'd 100% be there. But I'm starting to wonder if to get the normals to come into the world, if saying, hey, we're going to have a morning and afternoon edition is it, I mean, if they're updating throughout the day, it really doesn't mean anything. But it sounds like something, right? And that may be the thing to get people transitioned is like, oh, that's kind of cool. The morning paper will come, and I even get an afternoon one I don't have to pay extra for. I miss those nobody really misses those days. There's this nostalgia for it. So it might work on that level. It's the best I can come up with. Because frankly, it's sort of, I mean, I 100% agree with you here. It's sort of meaningless to say a morning or afternoon edition, really. Like, what, you're not going to add a big news story when it breaks? Come on.
Here's my other issue, though. And this
Oh,
actually, there may be a reason behind it, which is maybe it's a copyright reason behind it, but you're going to have a thing that swipes. Can't you call it swipe view? So, like, to me, that
I think your audio just went weird.
is that better?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Gravity.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
So my thing is, like, if you have something called pinch view, but it's designed to swipe, wouldn't you just call it swipe view?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that
maybe
seems like
that's
a
like
minor
it seems like
issue.
a copyright thing. Like, maybe you can't call it swipe. I don't know. It struck me as like newspaper people doing internet things.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I
That
love
does
the
happen.
Washington Post. I
Believe me.
love the Washington Post with my heart and my soul. It was my newspaper at college. Like, I was in it once. I love it. But it was like, it's one of those things that every once in a while you see and you go, oh, come on. Do it again. But I hope it succeeds. Okay,
Sorry.
title. No, I know.
Yes. I have a response to that.
It is cached.
Well,
Cached.
what I was saying to Jill is exactly in line with what you're saying, which is they need to try lots of things out.
Yeah.
And so far be it from me to say this one won't work. I don't know if it won't work. It's certainly not the worst idea I've ever seen. And maybe we overemphasized the 5 a.m. fight. You know, maybe that really isn't the key to this story. The key to the story is fire users get it free. And suddenly they're all reading the Washington Post. And
Right.
that could be the thing that helps the Washington Post float, because it's already got apps. It's not like it didn't have apps before. And it has a website, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the main point here is we're trying to get more eyeballs looking at the Washington Post. And that was my point about everybody's competing with everybody now. Washington Post isn't just competing with the New York Times and USA Today. It's also
Verge.
competing with every television network, every radio network, every blog that comes up, the Times of London, the BBC, India Times, you know, every English language news source around the world. So it's a whole different landscape. And I think that gets missed a lot when people are like, oh, it's the death of journalism. It's like, no, it's a huge shakeout of journalism.
Yeah, there's just much, much more of it, and you have to do it. We, as the readers, have to do a better job figuring out who we trust and who we don't trust. And
And
yeah,
I think
I'm on that.
yeah, for a while we are going to have to do that. But I think eventually it will settle back down into a like, oh, okay, those are the folks you trust for long form. Those are the trust they're good at breaking. Those are the people that you go to only because you like sensational stuff. I see that in the technology world already, right? We've actually settled very nicely down after the blog disruption into most of those categories. And so I don't see why general news won't follow that eventually. It just had a lot longer way to go because the
Right.
tech news sources only had some magazines that they had to disrupt, whereas general news has everything, every medium ever invented.
I do like the idea that there is a Venn diagram of fire early adopters and Washington Post readers. I mean, I like that's
Yeah.
a smart reason why Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. Like that, now have all this amazing content that you can put in your device. But yeah, I hope it works because there's some snappy writing at that paper and good reporting.
Metal Freak wants to know why we didn't cover the DOJ guy saying crap. And the reason I didn't cover it is because he's saying a bunch of crap, and I didn't want to. I just don't think it's worth. All I have to say about that is the same thing I've said, which is we deserve strong encryption. Yes, we need to have good tools for catching bad guys, but that doesn't mean we don't deserve strong encryption. So if I cover that story, it just gives his crap more circulation.
Yeah.
There's nothing. That's the way I think about it.
I would agree, and I also think that we covered that story the last 3 times. It was just a different threat at the end of the sentence.
Exactly, and that's what's going on is they're jumping up and down trying to get everybody to cover it so that one of their scare tactics will stick.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
And I absolutely sympathize with, I mean, like, the problem is, in a perfect world where the people who are surveilling you to protect you are actually perfect human beings with no bad apples ever, sure, have all the data, but they're not. Nobody is. That's not the way it goes. And so my feeling is like, you know, there's got to be a coming together, but I don't think we should just hand it all over to the people who are like, yeah, we have a right to spy on everything. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, you can say if we don't get encryption, then bad things, you know, we might not be able to stop a bad thing from happening. Well, if that's the logic and that's your only argument and that's the only argument we should have, then we should just have a 100% surveillance state, right?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't there cameras installed by the government inside my house? Somebody might break into my house, right? The reason, very reasonably, someone who's on the other side of this argument would say, well, that's ridiculous. The chances of that happen are virtually nothing. That's not going to help. Exactly. So there is a line, is what that argument says, and this argument is entirely about where the line should be. The argument is not that, you know, this or that may or may not happen. The argument is, what is the balance? What is the appropriate balance? And if we get back to that conversation, then I'll start. Then I'll start.
And
talking
also,
about it.
I think there's a more difficult conversation to be had, which I actually think the problem is the courts, the U.S. judicial system, is so overwhelmed it cannot keep up with law enforcement requests, like legitimate law enforcement requests for warrants, for everything. Like, there's a deeper problem there, which is the amount. Yes, there. That's a legitimate.
I want to agree with you, but is there actually evidence of that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
like,
good.
You can read a million different articles about how the justice system is literally drowning because of deep problems in either funding it or getting judges. I mean, this is like a big problem.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
And so the
And
more
that's fair.
complicated problem is, how do you adjust the way that an FBI official, like an FBI person, why can I not think of the word for an FBI agent? Thank you. They're really hot on the trail of something and they really need a judge to go in there, and like, if they are backlogged or if it's whatever, like, yeah, they're going to just want all the data available to them already to circumvent that problem. So maybe we should all work on the harder problem. So that would be another well, thing.
And that's why, and I get why bulk metadata is so attractive, because if you're not going to misuse it, it's the easiest way.
Absolutely.
No argument there. The question is, you know, how do we maintain an innocent until proven guilty society and protection against the next guy who holds the agent title after you, who isn't as good? You know, how do we have the safeguards? And it's a fair question to say, well, what are the chances of that happening? And yes, the chances of that are low. We actually have a pretty good system for putting trustworthy people in places of responsibility, but it's not 100%. So you have to have some kind of balance. It's all about the balance to me.
Yep, I agree.
The line is drawn here, no further. We just need Jean-Luc Picard to come in and tell us.
I mean, look, if everybody obeys Star Trek Federation regulations, I would feel very comfortable about giving them my metadata, but they don't. It's an imperfect world. Not everybody operates from the best principles, but a lot of people do. All right, you want some titles, or did you already pick one?
I just picked one while we were talking. I went with peak fitness ?
Yeah, I like.
It was too good of a conversation to interrupt, but I needed to keep going. Also, with having to squat on Chowbot, we're not getting as many votes. So I just made a unilateral decision.
No, that's fine. I think that, as long as we're still seeing them,
exactly,
that we can make a choice. But yeah, it's
but we don't have to sit there and go, well, this one's more popular, because it's at least right now. We'll get it back. It'll work.
So let's see, what else?
Dwayne Knight says maybe we should reduce their scope of work, like legalizing pot.
You know what?
We are, apparently. That's happening in states all over the place.
Yeah, it's like what's the, I don't know. This is that part of the conversation where I start to dangerously generalize, and I'm going to try to restrain myself. But yeah, I guess the problem is you can have all the metadata available in the world, and you can have an administration that you trust, and then you can have an administration that you don't trust, and different people don't trust different administrations. So why are you just going to hand over the keys forever?
And
Like checks and balances.
that puts it in a red versus blue way of putting
Not
it, which
even.
most,
It puts
which
it
most
in-
people understand. But I think
You
it's
could say
even
that in any
mo-
country in the world, and it would be
you
the
could,
same.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying it's not even administration, right? It's
Right.
an individual, one individual, not even an entire. Both administrations can be beyond reproach,
Right.
except for one individual.
Or
who
a
is in the
spy.
re-
What
who's
about
in the
a
res-
spy?
Sure, that individual could
gonna
be a
go-
spy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go Tom Clancy.
that's not even, it doesn't even have to be that controversial, though. It could just be someone who feels that it's important for them to do this for whatever reason, even though it's would be deemed against the law by any court. You know,
Yeah.
anybody who thinks they're right enough and is in a position of power can abuse that power.
Yep. It's also complicated.
Dan Carlin was dealing with that on his Common Sense podcast I just listened to this morning, and he was talking about that drift that we have. For instance, how the Patriot Act is most often used in drug enforcement, even though it was written to fight terrorists. He's like, whenever you write a law, it starts to be used for other things it was not intended for. Now, that may not be a bad thing, but that's when you write the law and you're like, well, we're only doing this, right? We only want to get rid of encryption on phones to fight the terrorists. Well, then suddenly it's going to start to be used for other things too. You got to consider that as well.
Yeah.
In the end, it's all about the base.
Now is that retribution for too many cooks?
No, actually, I think it was TV Zagon wrote no treble in the chat room, and that's what stuck it in my head. Did you have a good birthday?
I did.
I got the impression you did, but I didn't actually
did.
ask you.
It was great. It was awesome. I had like Matt and two of my very best friends to dinner, and we ate a lot of oysters.
That
and
sounds
other
delightful.
Seafood. It was delightful. Somewhere out there in the world is a picture of me doing like a 3-person cheers with an oyster. In fact, I have to go get my friend to send that to me, because really, it's just awesome. And then I got my amazing cake.
That cake was incredible.
That place.
I can't believe you ate it.
I know. It was really heartbreaking. Like I had this
I
weird,
would have
like,
shellacked it.
I know. One of my friends had to leave in like 10 or 5 minutes, and like it was getting a little hectic. And I was like,
Yeah.
I need to sit with this cake for like 20 minutes. So incredible.
You needed 2 of them. One you could keep
I know.
so
It was
that
a
you could have your
circle
cake and eat it too.
Eat it too. I know. It's wonderful. It's just right there.
People are like, I get people. People say like, I don't understand that metaphor. What does it mean? I'm going to use this as the example
Yes.
from now on. This
It
is what
is.
it means.
I mean, when a company like makes you a cake with a 3D standing stone circle on it, you don't want to eat it.
No, you
Except
want to
it was
have
also
it.
delicious.
You want to eat it, but you
Yeah.
also want to have it
I know. Amazing.
for later.
And then it was funny. I tweeted it out just because like that cake deserves all the fame it can get, and all the Outlander fans picked it up like, oh my god, because
Of course.
it's shooting new episodes, so nobody has a lot to talk about.
Mm.
So that was fun. My cake went tiny bit viral.
Nice. Viral cake. Yeah, don't say viral cake ever again. It's dumb.
I know, right?
That doesn't sound
Please
good.
have a slice of my viral cake.
Thanks. No. I'll pass.
Yeah. Oh, that's why Metal Freak said I needed a 3D scanner. I thought he said I needed a 3D scanner because I made that cake. But no.
No.
It's to have taken, yeah, it was incredible. I got a little dusty, I'll admit,
Yeah.
because Matt, like this year, he was like, "Well, you're not going to get another." You were. Oh, I wasn't on the show last year when I got the Lord of the Rings cake.
Oh, wow.
So last year it was a cake with the map of Middle Earth on it. It's beautiful
Holy-
green gold stripy cake with a perfect photo map
That's insane.
of Middle Earth. I know. I have a lot of pictures of that one. It was pretty awesome. I now have.
What did you eat Mordor first so that it would not cause any more trouble?
Yeah, I did. I made them cut into Mordor and keep the Shire for last.
The cake can be only unmade where it was made.
Amazing. It was pretty awesome. No, the cake got unmade pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, because
we
you cut
kept
into
it.
Mordor first. You did
Yeah.
it right. Exactly.
Actually, it was big enough that we were able to cut around the map. I think we saved like a decent percentage of the map in our freezer, like a wedding cake that we never had. So yeah, that was pretty exciting.
I cut off the beginning of the fan intro in the edited version, by the way, so that it doesn't set off Google phones across the world.
Nice.
It's just going to start with the sound, the blink. Hopefully that still works and people get it. I think that means we're done. I don't know why I'm talking like Stephen Hawking.
Because I just saw
Haven't
that
seen that
trailer and
movie.
it looks amazing. I mean, it like really this is a good year for nerd movies. Like Alan Turing and Stephen Hawking movies this
Well,
year.
we're already starting to get the
terrific.
backlash of like, why do all movies have to be nerd movies? But
Because
that's
nerds
the way
are
Hollywood always
awesome.
is. They get on a trend and then they just write it until it's dead.
Yeah, I am super excited about both those movies. Let's see. I put my notes into the post. Done and done.
Hey, Metal Freak, thanks for sending this, actually. You make a really good, reasonable argument in your email, and that may be a way for me to still bring this up without bringing up the first part. I may cut out the first part of your email where you're talking about the story. But this is good. Thanks for sending it. All right, I'm out of the post. We're done.
We're done.
We'll be back tomorrow with Darren Kitchen and Len Peralta.
Yay!
Goodbye.